Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Laura Fierro Evans is a master executive coach from Mexico who contributes to building cultures in which all the voices of a system are being listened to. Her company supports leaders in transforming their organizational cultures through building collective intelligence and moving leaders from an ego-centric to eco-centric. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mal, and today my guest, all the way from Mexico, she's none other than Laura Fierro Evans. Can you give her a big warm welcome? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you for this invitation.
You are most welcome. You know, Laura, we've had a bit of a pre-show already. We've had a wonderful time and lots of laughs. I just want to start by just asking you, who is Laura? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, this is one of the questions I wanted to talk most about, this who am I or who I am not, precisely.
That's a good one, yeah.
Because one of the main parts of my work have to do with this diversity. I am a human being who is inhabited by many polarities, by many selves, by many forces, by many different interests, and by core values that unite me, make me a unity in my ethics, in my actions, and in my response to others. So a little bit.
I understand that what you just said is it's so powerful already when you talk about all the different facets make us so unique, isn't it?
Yes, and we tend to reduce our understanding of who we are. And this is one of the most transforming things that have impacted my life. When I realized that I had been over-identified with some parts of me, which are some of my strengths, but I didn't know how these strengths actually became my main weakness.
Wow. And
until I was able to embrace both and to work with both and to be one as a leader, not over-identifying like I am the strong, brave, hard-working, results-driven, and I am also that other one. When we dare to say I am strong and I am also weak, I am brave and I am also how do you call it in English? The opposite of coward. I am fast and I am slow. I am tender and I am rough. I can be nice and I can be horrible. It has been taking a long path until I'm able to tell that with no problem, because this is what I am.
Yeah, and I celebrate that with you, Laura. Being able to do that obviously takes a lot of work, takes a lot of unveiling of ourselves. And sometimes it can be a little bit uncomfortable. Well, I say it a little bit, but I think it's very uncomfortable sometimes.
Now, in the point I am right now, it would be more uncomfortable for me just to say I am one part. I am a polarity. I am a small piece. Because I would know I would not be honoring all that I know I am. And I know that I still don't know maybe half of what I am and of the possibility. No?
Yeah, it will continuously come to us, isn't it? If obviously we're listening, if we're open to it, of course, if we are made aware also, and if we start accepting it for ourselves.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
What a wonderful start. Oh, we're already diving into the ocean of possibilities here, Laura,
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, obviously, in the context of now your coaching, because the show is all about that. Tell us, how did coaching come into your life?
Well, that is the story. That is, when I was 22, I finished my bachelor's degree in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I left to Germany in 1984.
Okay.
And I lived in Germany for 10 years. There I did a master's degree, and there I married, and there I had 2 sons, and then I divorced, and then I was very unhappy. And in 1993, one of the professors of my university, she was a literature professor. She came one day and said, "So I'm quitting my job." She had been working hard in this academic field. Yeah. And then she said, "I quit my job because I am becoming an executive coach." And we all said, "What is this?" Like she turned to be a part of a sect, a sectarian new religion, or what is this? And in Germany, in Hamburg, 1993. So she invited a group of students to a workshop so that we would try what was that about.
Hey, hold on. And you were one of the students, obviously. Just saying.
And it was in one of the years in which I was most conflicted in my life. I had just divorced. I was alone with my children. I really didn't know what to expect from anything, from life or whatever. So for me, it was down. So I came to that workshop, and it changed my life. Just to say that easily.
For sure.
Because I learned how, I studied communications. I did my thesis on interpersonal communication, and that field has always been of my most interest. And you know how the things you do the best academically or outside are the ones you need to learn more yourself. So when I discovered that, and I realized, that there was one part of me wanting desperately to go back to Mexico. But I had another very important part of me, which I call like my German part, who was saying, "You're crazy. How come you have never been living as a married woman and not even as a divorced woman in a country like Mexico, conservative, Catholic, all the prejudices I had made in Germany?" And I said, "No, you're crazy." And then 1994 arrived, which was one of the most violent, violence is always here in this country. That's such a pity, but that was especially violent year in Mexico. So this part of me, this German part of me, was especially preventing me to come back to a country in which a war was just declared by some people in the south to the government, the Zapatists, all that time, and the presidential candidate was killed, and there were so many killings, and it was so much instability and uncertainty. And there was this part of me fighting me against coming back. And there was my brave Laura, go back. You need to be there. Like you're missing the best part of what you need to do and your contribution to your country. My fearful mother, how will I manage alone with 2 children, where I will be living? I was sure I didn't want to go back to live with my parents. So I discovered in that workshop that it was not only me being blocked, but that there were different selves talking different things wanting to protect me from different things that could happen to me, and wanting the best for me, and me listening to them, and me being able to separate from them, like instead of they waking me up in the night and me not knowing what to do, me being the leader of my own selves, and me deciding and taking the best part of what each one was telling me, so that I could take a decision with the most consciousness I could have at that moment, and with the awareness of what was coming, and getting prepared inside of me of what would arrive when I came to Mexico. So it transformed my life. So when after I finished that program, I said, I go back to Mexico in 1 year, and in 1 year I want to be in Mexico. And the second thing is I want to be a coach as this woman. And so I became a coach. Yes.
You know, you talked about polarities at the start of this conversation, and you continued that story about understanding the many sides of you that was warring inside you, right? For that safety, and then for that adventure, and then for that, you know, living of that time in your life as a Mexican, wanting to be a part of perhaps the rebuilding of your country, you know. So I hear all these wonderful themes that is happening inside you, and on hindsight it just seems like, oh, it's just simple, we pack up and go and leave the life of 10 years, but it probably was one of the biggest decision that you had to make for yourself, not just for yourself, for your two sons as well. You were saying.
Absolutely yes. Yes,
please continue that story. You know, it's like executive
and
coach.
then I came back.
Yeah, that's right. You know, came back. You know, tell us what happened.
I came back.
Yeah.
And yes, and I arrived into a small city, in a centralistic country like Mexico. Everything happens in the capital. Okay. And if you go to a small city, it's like a little town, and until development comes, it can take decades. And it took a long time until I heard for the first time of something called coaching happening here.
All right.
But it was a very different approach, nothing to do with what I had learned. And at that time, I was teaching at the university. I was a journalist. I was translator. Like, you need to work in many things here to survive. So I was I was a consultant. I'm a consultant already in managerial skills, in leadership. And it was around the year 2003 or 4, something like that, that I was in a very, very big project. There is, like in this region, there is much industry of all kinds, cars and of all kinds, nourishment and everything. Yeah. And I was working in a big project from the university. Yeah. In an industry, and there were many months of work, of training managers, doing many things, and working intensively with that industry. And one day the HR manager comes to me and says, you know what, we have had a performance review with the general director, who was an American guy, and he says that some of the participants of the leadership program, not even with the program, they have improved. And so the general manager suggests to send them to coaching with you. And I said, what? Coaching with me? I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach. And then he said, yeah, no, he trusts you and you will know what to do. So I took those 4 first coachees. Yeah. Even though I didn't know anything about coaching, I knew and I didn't know. Yes. I was not certified and I had some intuitive things. So what I did was immediately join a certification. So those first 4 people that I was coaching, like I was having a supervisor during the coaching program. And so I was like all the time checking with her about the clients and how to go on. So I was not all the time on my own.
Yeah.
And yes, and then I got certified, and I kept getting and receiving more and more and more and more. And like in 1 year, I had already over 20 people. And yes, that was my beginning as a coach. Yes.
It's amazing, because what I'm hearing, Laura, is that you didn't go out there and say, hey, you know, this is me, I have arrived. In fact, you just came back to Mexico. You went to a smaller town, as you said. You started living there. You started contributing there. You said you did a couple of things, you know, faithful in what you were doing. And then someone spotted you, right? It's like they said, I think you can do it. We trust you. We trust you, Laura. You know, we see
That
what
was
you do.
so yeah. My
Amazing.
inner critic was
There we
always
go.
saying, you shouldn't be doing this. You are not good enough. You know, I have this very big inner critic. This very big. And when someone comes to me and says, Laura, you can, yes.
You know, Laura, I was gonna say, it's not just you. I've got those voices as well, right? So
yes.
you know, we've been talking at a pre-show, right? You said congratulations on your new book, and I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like somewhat like we're trying to defend and say, no, you know, it's just a simple launch. You know, it's the book is not that good. It's you know, we've got all these, I call it the narratives that we allow in our head, isn't it? It just allows it to come. And the worst of all is we entertain those voices. Yeah, we say, stay around.
Yes.
You know, do you want drinks? You know, I'll give you some drinks, and you can stay inside my mind for a while. You know, so it's I'm just wondering, when you started working with more and more of these leaders, did you notice that they also had those voices in their head?
Of course. You know what happened is that I very soon started looking in internet for the books, and like the professor that originated like all this approach was one of the researchers at the university in Hamburg. So I contacted the coach with whom I was doing the program that time, and she gave me the names books. So I was ordering books from Germany, and I have my bookshelf like this big to learn more about the approach, the technique, and working. So I am very creative. And I'm always like innovating and trying things and exploring. So I very soon started exploring with the clients, with the inner selves, and more because I realized after reading all those books that there had been already for the last 20 years or more in Germany, which is a country with many more rational minded people. And for those people work especially good this approach. And like for me, I'm also pretty much rational. So when I was working here with engineers and people from all kinds of professions that had nothing to do with humanism, they were surprised. You know, it is an approach that makes you very easy the contact with all the parts that live within you. And you learn very easy to separate, to listen to their messages, to feel in your body the energy of one or of the other. You put names on them. You are playful. And instead of being afraid of going deep into the cave of yourself, you play with these parts of you that are all the time there in the surface, and you distinguish their messages. And the clients, they come alone with their new discoveries. Laura, I met this new self this week. Let's please have a talk with that. So it's really a joy, and it's profound. It's sometimes hard. It's sometimes, but it's always transformative. That's the main thing of this inner selves.
Is that what sparked the writing of your first book?
Yes,
so
yes.
Tell us more about that.
Yes, after many years of working with clients, I realized some things. Like I discovered first the ICF. I was it came the time in my city in which everyone wanted to be a coach, and then suddenly in the very small city there were hundreds of coaches. So I thought, what do I have different that I can offer that maybe some other people don't have? And what I have is I speak German perfectly, I speak English perfectly, I understand French, multiculturality. And then I thought, so international clients, is there something international? And then I heard that there was this thing called ICF. And then I heard about the credentials, and I heard about competencies. And I thought, wow, this is what I need. This is what I need. So with a colleague of mine, we went to my very first ICF conference in Montreal. And by example, there I had my ACC exam face-to-face with a PhD in coaching. I was coaching her. For me, all myself, because I am Spanish speaking and I had never been coaching someone in English. So my English teacher criticizing my English was very good.
Was and right next to you.
And my friend was telling me, Laura, remember, it's not an English exam, it's a coaching exam. But my English was there all the time saying, you don't speak English well. No? And so I had this path. And in ICF, I started opening my world. I met two persons in that conference. One of them was Damian Goldberg. You may have heard of him.
Of course.
He was also new in ICF. He was also doing his exam there face-to-face. We were both in the same. Soon after, he was inviting me to an international project. So for me, it was like the opening of the doors. Opening the possibilities of this multiculturalism. And since 2009, I started working as a coach for the UN. And it was at the beginning, phone calls, a phone call here to to a refugee camp in a remote area in Zambia, in the Central Republic of Africa, with a telephone. So for me, it was a discovery that it was possible to have coaching that would be also powerful and transformative by not being face-to-face and not even seeing the person. With the years, it came Skype and other kinds of possibilities that opened the coaching.
Definitely.
And to come to the book, when I was about to turn 50, which is almost 10 years ago, I said, I want to give back to the society some of what I have learned. So I joined with some colleagues and we designed together a coaching certification, which is my ACTP that I run since then. And when we asked ourselves, what kind of books do we give to our students so they read and they learn, there was nothing that would meet the needs of, first, this professionalism, how a professional coaching process is, seeing from the ICF and seeing from what I had experienced at the UN, by example. And then nobody had written anything about these inner selves. And first I wanted to translate some of the books of that German guy, but that was it. He was too complicated. He didn't care. And I said, at the end, I do an application of that little part. And I contacted the source of that, who were Hal and Sidra Stone, two American guys who developed the psychology of selves, or Voice Dialogue International. And I started learning from this American source. So I was putting parts together from both when I wrote the first book. And I wrote also about one case of one manager I had as a coachee. So it's like kind of the novel of what happened during the process with him. And I also explain how is coaching, what is coaching, and coaching using this inner team process. So that was the first book.
Well done. Well done. I must get my hands on your first book. You know, I know it's called Coaching Leaders, right? And then there's a subtitle for a powerful one as well.
Leverage the power of your inner voices to become a leader.
I think the world needs to hear about this. I'm not saying it's not available everywhere, but you know, it's in Spanish, it's in English, right?
In Amazon.
Laura, the world obviously has changed through the years. You were telling us about your story in 93, 94, and then 2003. Now it's 2022. Even the coaching world has shifted. I think people know about coaching these days, isn't it? They appreciate what having a coach can do for their lives and also obviously their professional life. What do you say is your greatest experiences with these leaders in what they needed to discover about themselves? What would that be?
I have great experiences every day.
Yeah.
Every day. What I see now is that from doing our best to convince someone in a company about the power of coaching and they being skeptical. Now we have shifted absolutely from working more individually to working in groups. From doing only individual coaching, which has a more limited frame of impact, to having more processes of transformation, like I work in processes that build cultures within the organizations, or help sustain cultures or build teams. So when we do a process maybe of 6 months or 1 year in a company, we organize maybe some meetings with the team or the managers, the general managers, but each one has also a coaching process. So the coaching is in service of the whole. The coaching is now part of the group process versus what it was before, something isolated. You know, in some years ago, it was even confidential. Nobody should know that general director was having coaching because it was, and now everyone has a coach. Now everyone has a coach, and like one of my clients who was an Irish director, he said that his ideal for the team was that everyone would be so comfortable and so trusting the team that they would open their conversations with a coach in the team, that they would not fear talking about those conversations, and that vulnerability would be a safe space for all. So I have experienced more and more the capacity of leaders to be vulnerable in front of their people, which in a very authoritarian culture as the one we have in this country is not very easily seen, but with the years I see that more and more. So there is a big evolution in the people, in the companies, and also like globalization has played a huge part on it. And I also see a big transformation pre and post pandemic. Like this quote is so important and relevant in coaching. What got you here will not get us there. And what got us here as coaches before the pandemic will not get us there as humans after the pandemic. So I really think that we need to refresh and actualize our paradigms so that we really act honoring what the people really need today, not what they needed yesterday. In our coaching, in our interventions, in whatever we do.
It's about this continuous evolution.
Absolutely.
Of ourselves, what we stand for. And of course, coaching as well is part of that evolution. Yes. Because it cannot remain static while the whole world is shifting, right? Moving, changing. We also need to not just keep in step with it, but perhaps even flow along with it. Flowing, being, it's like a natural river, isn't it? If you're on a river, you don't just stay on one side and say, I think this is the side of the river that I'm going to stay on for the rest of my life. But we need to begin to flow on that river and start realizing that this whole vastness of the river is going to allow us to experience different rapids, different speed, different adventures even. And from there, I think it stretches even our realization that this is the new that we are to embrace in our lives.
Yes. And we need to be prepared as the leaders of those boats in the rapids, who are all the time checking, and all the people are caring for being co-leaders and moving the way they need to move and adapting to what is happening, instead of thinking that reality is the way it has always been. So coaching cannot be like always. We need to update ourselves as persons and as professionals and in everything now.
I'm curious to know what you think the future of coaching is going to look like in the midst of all these changes, as we're talking about it, and the need to shift along. It's like move along, even sometimes even go ahead and look out for the trends that is coming our way. A good leader often looks out and see what's ahead. Don't just wait for things to happen. So my thought for right now is, as you look ahead, what do you think we need to look out for a little bit more as a community of coaches?
I think we need to look beyond the borders of the coaching today.
Wow.
We need to rethink our role in society. We need to know that like one of the needs, I love very much the work of this German Otto Scharmer, who is in MIT, the U theory. So as coaches, I think we carry much this transformation from the ego-centric paradigm in which we have lived, and therefore we have the results in the world that we have. And we need to transform ourselves and transform the society into this eco-centric. So from being mentally rigid, owners of the truth to being more heart-centered. So I think that we need to open our hearts, open our mind, open our will in the service of the whole. We need to have more systemic view, more including always the system of the coachee, the system of the organization, so that we don't zoom in so much that we forget the whole picture in which we are. You said something very important. We need to be leading. We need to be like in front, knowing what is coming ahead instead of just floating behind the boat. So I really think that we as coaches, we are transformative agents in the society, and we have a big commitment towards humanity, towards the nature, and that's what I see, that we need to rethink and evolve, always evolve. Evolution is fundamental, I think.
I'm tempted to ask right now, in link to what you just said about your second book. And you did tell me a little bit about that. And this book obviously is in Spanish. So just want to say that everyone out there, you've got to get your hands on this book. If you read or speak Spanish, you got to get your hands on this book, because I don't. So I'm waiting for the English version to come out, and I'm definitely going to get that. And in this, you talk about these 4 warriors, right? And then obviously that those inner beings of this expressions of these warriors and how they represent themselves in our world today, through our leadership style. So in reference to that, and in reference to what we talked about, that future leader that is required of us, what are your thoughts on that?
We need to be more agile, and we also need to be more aware, self-aware. I think that self-awareness, mindfulness are key components of leadership today, that leaders can no longer allow themselves to be blind or to be driven only by one of their impulses. So talking about like the warrior styles, I call them warrior styles. Some people freak when they read, why warriors? We want peace. And that's precisely because of that. Because we have been fighting inner fights all our lives. By over-identifying ourselves with these styles. Like the one who is like in the style I call Viking is over-identified with this, being the pusher, the rusher, the this. And like yesterday, I was having a coaching session with a client who was talking with his inner pusher. And you know what he was saying? When he was in the role of the pusher, he said, okay, I am the pusher. People, you know what I think about that? I am results driven. People are inputs into production. I wrote it down. I have it here. I wrote it down. This quote: people are inputs into production. Inputs. So, and he was really inhabiting this self of being a pusher. But then when he comes back and he hears himself, he separates from that. And then he goes to the opposite self and says, at the end, like the opposite self said, people are my family. My people in my team, they should be like my family. But that guy doesn't allow me. So me as a leader, I have to bring both opposing selves and decide in another level of consciousness what I really want and what values I want to carry, what legacy I want to leave behind, so that I honor whatever decision I take. And I learn to relate to the people differently. So in coaching, many people come like rejecting or defending themselves because they feel threatened. It's, you want to change me. And I say, no, it's not about changing you. Like your identity will not be threatened.
Yeah.
It's about you learning to relate differently to yourself, to other people, to your work, and to life. So I think this is like one of the lessons that we need to learn in leadership in the future, to relate differently to the world so that we all together build something sustainable for all of us now.
There are so many things that is happening in different parts of the world, even right now. And we know what it is. Even as one part of the world is hurting, we on every different parts and different continents of the world are also hurting along. Mm-hmm. It seems like we're all actually connected in some way. And that whole thought about it's my decision, so you should follow it, or it's my decision and it only benefits me, right? Do you think that that is going to stay in our world today, or is that going to be a shift?
We should never lose hope.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know, the violence we have in my city in the weekend, there was the most violent event ever in a soccer game. Violence is all over the world, not only in Ukraine. So we all need to be aware of what is my contribution, what I want my contribution to be, and how do I contribute to the peace or to the war or to the aggressions around. So, yeah.
There is hope. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. I often ask my guests, what will be your master thought or wisdom that you want to leave behind for new coaches coming in?
You know, one could be like after what we have been talking, don't let your ego be the ruler of your life. Work with yourselves and follow the path of your heart so that you honor your true self. That would be one.
So good.
You know that energy follows mind. You know that energy follows mind. So it's like exactly like with the guns, where I put my eye, there goes the movement. No, so if my intention, my mind, my actions go being driven by the ego, and I want more, and I take, and I want to be rich, and this is what I will get.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we as coaches need to build much awareness of who we really are and what our contribution in the world is. Different from being an engineer building parts of a car. You have to do and deal with many people around. Yeah. But the responsibility of working with human beings is huge.
And it's much needed. And even more so in the world we face today.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Laura. You have shared so much already. I wish we could continue this conversation. It has been just such an honor to host you. I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts as we close the show.
My final thoughts are never stop learning from who's actually driving your car, who is driving the car of your life, who's deciding for you inside of you what you're doing, so that you learn from yourself every day.
And I've learned lots today. So thank you once again, Laura, from the bottom of my heart. It's been a pleasure.
Too.
This has been the 100 Master Coaches Show, today with Laura and myself, Mel. Till next time we see each other, take care, stay safe, and continue to follow your heart. Bye for now.
Bye.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.